Hi, teachers and administrators. Welcome to the 5th grade science data overview for Brumby Elementary School. I am Heather Suber, and I am one of the science lab teachers here at Brumby Elementary. The purpose of this science data overview is to show you a little bit about the demographics that we're working with here at Brumby over a 3-year period. We're also going to examine and review the science milestones end of grade data for 5th grade. We're going to be able to identify trends, strengths, and weaknesses, and some areas of improvement in our current science instruction. We're also going to learn what we can do together to improve science in our school. I want to share a little bit about Brumby before we get deep into our data, just in case some of you don't know about Brumby, but our school is 53 years old. We recently received a new building. In 2018, we moved in and we are getting settled in, starting our second year there this year. We also earned Cobb County STEM certification in 2016. In 2017, we followed it with the Advanced Ed STEM certification. So our teachers and staff have been working really hard, and that has a little bit about to do, you'll see those effects of that hard work in our data. Who are the Brumby teachers? A little bit of information about them. The makeup of the teachers are about 80 teachers per year. Of our certified staff, that would include support staff that works with our ESOL, special ed, and our CoreX, which is our specials. You can see that we have more females than males that are teaching at our school. Most elementary schools are that way. So our teacher amount is decreasing every year too. We've started at 83 and then have gone down to 70. Our teacher data also I've included is our race and ethnicity. We do not have a big diverse staff. We have it's pretty consistent too, with a majority of us being white, and that might be one of our factors later on in our conversations that we have. But our teachers come with 11 years on average experience. Over 50% of our teachers have master's or higher education, which is pretty impressive. So that is a little bit about our teachers. Next up, our students. Our student enrollment is over 1,000 students in 2015. And as you see, it has decreased over the 3 years that we are looking at, down to 923 students, almost 100 students that we have changed over those 3 years. So our student population is shrinking. Here's a breakdown of our student enrollment by race and ethnicity. And you can see that we have a very diverse population. We have actually over 40 countries represented in our school. The majority of our students are African American children, and you can also see that we stay pretty consistent with our subgroups of students. Here's our student enrollment by gender. You can see that we are almost half and half with our gender, boys and girls, or females and males. And you can see that in 2015 was the only year that we had more females than males, but there's really not that big of a difference in the two groups. As I said earlier, we were a school that has a very diverse enrollment. And with a diverse enrollment, you need programs that are going to be able to support those students. And these are our programs that we have set in place to support our enrollment at our school. So our first group that we're going to look at is our EIP students. We have increased in our EIP students over the last 3 years. And you can see that we are actually over 50%. We're 56% of our students are getting early intervention program support. So those students get extra support and are helped throughout their day. Also, the next group that we're going to look at is our ESOL group. We have a big population of Hispanic students, and they need support. They're learning English as their second language, and you can actually see that our enrollment for them has decreased by 3%. So they are getting support through our ESOL teachers and our ESOL program. So the next group we have are our students with disabilities, and that population is actually increased, and they get served by our teachers. Some are in inclusion classes, and some get pulled out, and some just get segments within their day in their general ed classroom. And then our last group that we have that get special programs would be our gifted students. And look at the difference in those students. We only have 3%, and it's actually gone down 0.2% over the last 3 years. But 3% of our students are gifted, where the average for the county is like 35%. So we are below in that area. But those are our special programs for our students at our school that we have it enrolled. The factors. Are they affecting our student achievement? Let's look together at the factors that could be affecting our students. I'm going to talk to you about two main factors that have a huge influence on our students' performance. The first one is attendance. Attendance for our students, they have to be in school 178 days is a school year for them. And you can see by this chart, this is the percentage of students with 6 or more absences. That means over these 3 years, between 41 and 45% of our students were missing school more than 6 days. That's almost 50% of our students. So that being said, our scores and their performance are going to be affected if they are not in school. So that is one factor that I think plays a huge role in our results for our data. The second one is our transiency rate. It's hard to get a clear picture of data when you have students who start the school year and then by the end of the year they're gone. Our average transiency rate for these 3 years was 39%. So 39% of our students that started the school year with us were gone by the end of the year. So it's hard for teachers not to get frustrated and not to get upset and overwhelmed when they're having to reteach things and new kids are coming in and those kids that you've put all that effort into are just gone. So I think that those two factors are two huge factors in our performance as a school. Now let's take a closer look at the 5th grade. Here's a comparison of the school district and state, the students who are at or above on the science milestones. So this is the percentage of students, and you can see that as a state, we are below level. We are only at 39% of our students being at or above. As a county, we're a little bit higher, but then as a school, as Brumby, we are well below the county and state lines. This is our science milestones by race and ethnicity for 5th grade. You can see that the Hispanic and the African American students in year 1 and 2 actually were about the same. The African American students stayed almost exactly the same. The Hispanic students dropped a little bit, 1%, or not even 1%, a little over 1%. And then the white students in 2016-17, there was no data recorded for them. So that kind of leaves us with a blank there. We don't know how they did that year. There may have been too few students to report the data on, so we just don't have any data for them. But you can see that they did increase in 2017-18 up to 25% being at or above proficiency for the science milestones. This is our science data broken down by female and male, by gender. And it is very interesting to me to see how well the girls did in 2015-16, 16-17, and then all of a sudden in 17-18, they have plummeted. They were up to 30%, down to 25%, and then down to 8%. And then the boys were opposite. They started at 5% and got all the way up to 22%. So something happened in there, but the trend is the boys are improving and the girls are decreasing. Programs making progress. Are the programs that we have, are they supporting and making our students successful? So let's look and see the ELL students. they actually were doing okay. They were at 6.1% being at or above on the science milestones. And you can see that that decreased over the 3 years that we were looking at, all the way to 0% in 2017-18. So something happened with vocabulary or something that caused that decrease. Our students with disabilities were actually at 9.1% in 2016-17 and then dropped back down to 4% in 2017-18. So something in 2016-17 for them was really working. Now we're going to break it down by science domains: earth science, physical, and life science. Here's an overview of the percentages in each domain. You can see that we made some improvements in some areas that we're going to look at in just a second, and then there were some that we did not. And overall, it really looks like 2017-18 might have been our lowest on average year as a whole for all of it. So let's look at each one individually and see how we did. So this is earth science broken down. And you can see that in 2015, we were only at 17% of our students being at and above for science and earth science. And then we moved up to 21% for 2016-17 and 17-18 were exactly the same. And this science, they study landforms, forces, and roles of technology. And this is what they learn at the very beginning of the school year. Next is physical science. This, you can see that in 2015-16, we were doing very well at 28% of our students at or above, and then decreased over the next 2 years down to 20%. And this is where they learn about conservation of matter, physical and chemical changes, and electricity. And this information is stopped kind of in the middle of the year, right around Christmas, and then on into early spring. And then our last but not least, our life science. And this you can see that we did really strong, started strong in 2015-16 at 25% of our students were at or above. And then we did something really right in 2016-17 and we're at 34% of our students being at or above. And then we fell down to 17% in 2017-18. And this is when they're studying classification of organisms, inherited traits, learned behaviors, and cells and microorganisms. And this is something that they do at the very end of the school year. And I'm also still very intrigued and wondering what is going on in 2016-17 with these kids. A summary of trends for this data. Student enrollment was decreasing, which could mean that families aren't happy and want to find new schools. Number 2, the decline in female science scores over the 3 years may have been a result of getting rid of gender-based classrooms. Number 3, all science domains have decreased in 17-18. Could that mean that there was less time teaching science in that year? Number 4, the influx in science scores in 2016-17. Was it because there was a strong emphasis on science while focusing on our advanced ed STEM certification? Number 5, earth science was the lowest domain in 15-16, but increased to be a strength in 17-18. And then life science had the greatest increase over the 3 years. So here's a quick recap on the good, the bad, and our improvements. Our strengths is that we have strong, experienced staff. We have support programs in place. We have certifications, advanced ed STEM certified, and also Cobb County certified and MIE certified school. Our weaknesses would be our attendance, some of our behaviors, and definitely our mobility and transiency. Our areas for improvement in science would be to increase performance in life science, to raise the performance of our female students, and to raise the time that we are actually teaching science. I'm going to leave you with a few things to think about. How can we get families not only to stay at Brumby, but be active participants in our school? How can we support our female students that are falling behind in science? What can we do differently in our science instruction that we did in 2016-17 to get those great results? And how can we monitor that these students are being given adequate time and instruction in science?